What is going on, everybody? Wednesday, April 16th, 8 a.m. on the dot. Thank you very much for being here. Cheers to whatever you're drinking, coffee, tea, energy drink, whatever the hell gets you up in the morning. I appreciate you guys being a part of the show. We got a great show lined up today. We got a busy show lined up today. Do have a guest in the house today as well. So, it means I'm going to have to talk a little bit less. Thank you very much for being here. I got a quote here that I'm going to share for everybody. We're already moving. I'm already moving here. Criticism is something we can easily avoid. No, criticism is something we can avoid easily by saying nothing, doing nothing, and being nothing. That's kind of deep right there. I got one other one here I'm going to do. Holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the only one who gets burned. That's actually the quote. That's the quote that I was looking for. Holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at somebody else. You are the only one that gets burned. Some good quotes right there. If you guys got a quote you want to share with the team, with the squad, let me know. Feel free to put it into the chat. And I appreciate you guys being here. All right. So give everyone a quick rundown of the show. And then we'll get things started here. I did mention I do have a guest, so something to keep in mind. So I'll probably just kind of pick up the pace a little bit today just because I know I got a lot of topics that I want to get into, and I want to give the guest plenty of time as well. We'll start off the show. I just want to talk a little bit about that Warriors-Memphis game from yesterday. I put Atlanta and Orlando, but to be honest with you, I'm going to spend 4.5 seconds on that. I don't really think that was all that interesting of a game. Trae Young got thrown out of the game. But the game was the Warriors and Memphis, which means the Warriors are in the Lakers bracket. So we'll spend a brief second on that. They're going to be talking about they're going to be taking on the Houston Rockets. Some roster updates, some guys that are left off the player roster. We're going to get into, whether we feel like that's the right decision. It's not the right decision. The full schedule for round one is out as well. So now we know when are the Lakers going to play. Let's just say this, and I'm going to go back to something that we've all been talking about. How much easier is this going to be for the Lakers now that they have this playoff scheduling here? Just such an incredible advantage. You got so much time off in between games. Lakers are going to be chilling in this first round. Now they just got to win the first round. So we'll spend a little bit of time on that. There was a good article on ESPN. Players who can swing the series. Kind of interesting here. They got Rui Hachimura on there. I see where they're going with it. We'll spend a little bit of time on that. I think that's an interesting player to pick out. Luka's first Lakers run. His first playoff run. The hell is that going to be like? This guy's got a chance to be legendary right out of the gate. I mean, I know you got to win. But I think if there's a player that likes the moment, likes the attention, it's going to be Luka. So I think that's going to be fun. We'll spend a little bit of time on that as well. Alan Horton, who covers the Minnesota Timberwolves, does their radio play-by-play, is going to join me for the show. Somebody that I've had on before, somebody I've known for a long time. Used to actually work with him back in the days, a long time ago, down in San Diego. So really good dude. Alan Horton's going to be breaking down the Minnesota Timberwolves side of things. And then last thing I'll really get into is Nico Harrison. Got a chance to meet with the media yesterday. No cameras, no video, no audio. Well, that doesn't seem shady at all. And he says he has no regrets about trading for Anthony Davis and trading away Luka Doncic. Ask Lee at the end of the show, then we're going to call it a day. Let me take a look at a couple of the comments here. Hopefully comments better than some of the comments yesterday. Yeah, that was going on yesterday. You get kind of a couple loose screws in here, and then, I got to kind of get in here. Golden State almost ran out of gas, but experience won the day. We'll talk about that. Let's see what else we got here. Top of the morning to you as well. Thank you very much. Sleet really needed Golden State to lose. That 5-second count to inbound the ball for Grizzlies was short. Peter, I'm going to save this. We'll talk about that. We could kind of talk about how maybe that affects the Lakers, or how people think about Golden State being in the same bracket as Lakers. To be honest with you, I'm not too concerned about it. But Golden State were close to losing that game. All right, let's get a couple of these in here. Often, when we guess at others' motives, we reveal only our own. It's good right there. Believe in yourself and all that you are. Know that there is something inside you that is greater than any obstacle. Okay? Like that. Let's keep going here. Grizzlies missed some crucial free throws. They did. Okay. Let's get the show started here. What did I just hear? All right, Angelo. All right, taking advantage of SD there. All right, hope you enjoyed your time there. Okay, so let's start off the show. I do want to talk a little bit about that Warriors-Memphis game. It's funny. Somebody asked me. Speaking of San Diego, there's a sports radio station out in San Diego, John and Jim, and they do a fantastic job. Really, really good at covering baseball, but big NBA fans as well. So they hit me up yesterday to come on their show and talk a little bit about the series. Lakers, Minnesota, but they also mentioned the play-in. And their question was, hey, do you like the play? I was like, to be honest with you, I don't even really know what the hell the point of the play-in is, but the NBA has created something out of nothing. Here's a week that you were probably going to have off with no games to get everybody ready for the playoffs. And they're like, you know what? Why don't we just let the 7 and the 8 and the 9 and the 10 fight? We'll get, 4 games out of it. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I think 4 games out of it. They'll get 4 games out of it. And whether it's meaningful or it's not, you get more ticket sales, more merchandise, more advertising. I think it was like the SoFi play-in tournament, So they're kind of making something out of nothing. Have you ever gone into your refrigerator and you're looking around and there's like, all right, there's this left over and there's that left over. And you know what? Maybe if I put a little bit of this seasoning on it and you put the whole thing together and you're like, I don't even know if this is good, but it's going to take my hunger away. And I'll worry about a good meal tomorrow. That's kind of what the play-in tournament is. The play-in tournament is just put shit together and hope that it tastes good, or it tastes just good enough until you get to your main course, which is going to start over the weekend. I thought Warriors in Memphis yesterday was actually a pretty exciting game. I thought it was a good game. I thought a couple things I took away from that game. Memphis made it a game. So this wasn't as bad as the Grizzlies have been all season long, as far as, or at least the final, few weeks of the season, where they really, really hurt themselves in the standings. Obviously, they lost their coach. They fired their coach, and they're a little bit all over the place. There's a lot of times I'm asking, hey, is Ja Morant mature enough to go on a real playoff run? And I'm a fan of Ja Morant's game. It's just the guy has kind of hurt himself with just individual decisions that he's made. Then here you got the Golden State Warriors, who completely screwed things up over the final week or so, losing to San Antonio, lost that game to the Clippers, and they made their road a lot tougher, which sounds good to me if the Warriors want to make their road a lot tougher. That game last night was actually really, really entertaining. Golden State, first Memphis jumps out to a good lead, then Golden State comes back and they kind of control the game for a couple of quarters, and then Memphis makes things interesting. They outscore Golden State by 9 in the third quarter, and then the fourth quarter just kind of went back and forth. A couple things stood out to me. Ja Morant, ankle injury, kept playing through it. Kind of got to give that man his credit. The Warriors side of things, what if I told you that Steph was going to drop 37 and hit 6 threes and get to the free throw line and hit his free throws, and he was the second best player on the floor for the Golden State Warriors because Jimmy Butler was going to give you 38, 7, and 6 and got to the free throw line 18 times did Jimmy Butler. So, for those who ask, that trade and the question mark behind that trade, really, I mean, what did they really give up to get Jimmy Butler? And this is there's certain players that have an association with playoff performances. So I'll give you an example. We've heard this before. Playoff P, and it was for playoff Paul George, right? Okay, well that didn't go very well. But playoff Jimmy, that's a real thing. And he's a phenomenal player. And we've seen him get to the NBA Finals twice. And this is what makes the Warriors dangerous now is they got a squad of players that have won championships before, or in Jimmy's case, has got to an NBA Finals. But at the same time, you're watching this Warriors team and you're saying, all right, now if Steph Curry goes to the bench, they could still generate some offense. Jimmy Butler can be a facilitator, not just a scorer, but a facilitator as well. It's interesting. I mean, I do think the Warriors have I do think that it's going to be really, really tough for them to make a serious run. But I think for just kind of getting out of this game, now they get 4 or 5 days rest, but it kind of shows you that the Golden State Warriors didn't have to just depend on Steph Curry last night. Jimmy Butler actually had a better performance than Steph. That's why they traded for him. So they win 121-116. Memphis, some really, really poor free throw shooting at the end. I know Zach Edey missed a couple of free throws. Scottie Pippen Jr. By the way, shout out to Scottie Pippen Jr. That dude's getting real playing time at the end of games. 34 minutes for it or for the Memphis Grizzlies. I mean, that's impressive that he's getting those kind of minutes. But he missed a free throw that could have put them within, what was it? I think because Edey missed Edey made 2, could have tied the game. So he really, obviously hurt them by missing some free throws. And then they can't inbound the ball. Aldama doesn't inbound the ball. They get a 5-second count, so they don't even get a chance at taking the 3. So kind of a perfect story for the Memphis Grizzlies this year. They screw up towards the end, and then, that's it. Now they'll have to figure out if Ja Morant's not healthy, then they could lose that game to Sacramento or Dallas, and we'll figure out, who ends up who ends up there at the end. Okay, let's take a quick look here, and I'll look at some of these comments here. There was one that I starred that I want to go back to. Slee, really needed for Golden State to lose that 5-second count inbound the ball. Okay, now let's talk Warriors. So Warriors are in the same now bracket as the Lakers. All right. I don't mind playing the Golden State Warriors. The world's not going to end. I just didn't want to play them in the first round. That's good. Okay, can you face them a little bit later on? They got Houston. I don't think there's any lock that they're getting through the Houston Rockets. I think Houston's going to be a very, very tough out for the Golden State Warriors, and Warriors are going to have to play brilliant basketball for 4 games to beat Houston. Houston's locked down. Houston's dirty. Houston likes muddying the water. I think that's going to be a great matchup. I'm not worried about the Golden State Warriors because the Warriors' path that they have to take to get to the conference finals. Yes. No, the conference semis. The path that they have to go on and the path that the Lakers have to go on, I'm not – that's the last thing I'm worried about. I'm much more trying to pay attention to the series that the Lakers have against Minnesota. And if Golden State finds a way to beat the Houston Rockets, then we'll take our chances. I mean, really, once you get to that second round, anybody you play is going to be a much tougher matchup technically than what you're getting in the first round. So I'm not too worried about it. I don't, stress over the Golden State Warriors. I think I was just hoping to avoid them in the first round, and the Lakers avoided them. So I think kind of pushing this all to the side now, whatever happens from here happens from here. I think Golden State is beyond beatable. That's definitely not a team that, I think is one of those squads that, oh my gosh, you got to face Warriors. I just didn't want to play them in the first round. And I feel like I keep seeing that script playing the Warriors. I wanted to see something different. All right, we'll take a look at a couple of the comments here, and then we'll start moving to some other things I want to get into. Let's see here. Pippen Jr. turning into, a decent player. Jimmy Butler almost had 20 free throws. That's insane, by the way. Between, I think, him and just Steph, they had 33 free throws, something like that. I think that was the number. So that's kind of crazy right there. Okay, get a couple more of these in here. A couple good mornings. Good morning, Slee. All right. USS Callister. Good morning, brother. Thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it. Okay, this one on Ja. Yeah, this is why I think everybody wanted to play Memphis. And by the way, if you kind of look at the way Memphis played yesterday, they didn't play bad. They could have won that game. But the problem I think with Memphis that a lot of people have is that squad's just not connected. That franchise seems like it's all over the place. And a lot of it does have to do, Ja Morant's got to be the head of that snake, and he's got to be the leader of that team, and he's got to be the guy that's doesn't care about any of these, any of the side stuff. It's like, I'm just trying to win. And I think if he sent that message to his team, I think they'd be better off with all that, but we'll see what happens. Draymond versus Şengün is going to be hilarious. The Warriors game looked like every other Warriors playoff game. Let Steph take over and see what happens. Houston beats. Okay, if I got to make a quick prediction here, and then I want to start getting into some Laker stuff. I had to make a quick prediction here. I'm going to give Houston the edge in this series. I'm going to give Houston the edge. I think it's going to be a long series. I think it's going to be a tough series. You know what? Let me just go. I'll go Houston in 7. We'll take Houston. We'll go Houston in 7. Yeah, it's going to be actually a pretty fun matchup. This is, by the way, part of the things that I like about, I feel like we're getting fresh matchups in the playoffs. Clippers, Denver. All right, I'll take that. OKC, whoever they place. Okay, well, we'll see what happens. Lakers, Minnesota, Houston, and Golden State. At least we're getting some fresh matchups, some new matchups here. I think that part's going to be fun. Orlando beat up on Atlanta. That game's obviously done. Orlando gets into the playoffs. They get Boston, and then tonight we're going to get some of these other games that are coming. So we'll see what happens here. Peter Slee, disagree. Warriors are being the Rockets. Spirits will take over in close games. Hey, you could be completely right. Let me go ahead and roll the dice here, and I'll take the Houston Rockets, and I'll take my chances. If Golden State beat them, not obviously shocked or surprised at all. Okay, let's get into some other things. A couple roster updates that came up from yesterday that I want to get into here real quick. Then we also got the full schedule for round 1. So the full schedule is out, which I think is going to be helpful, very helpful to the Lakers. So first off, let me just say this. McMenamin had put something out yesterday. Lakers two-way players, Trey Jemison III and Christian Coloco, were not converted to full-fledged NBA contracts before the regular season ended. So they are ineligible to play in the playoffs. However, both practiced with the team today and will be with the team for the playoff run. Let me just stay on that here real quick. Trey Jemison III and Christian Coloco not converted to full NBA contracts. Okay. I guess the question is, to put it this way, no matter what happens, the Lakers were not going to depend on their size for this playoffs. They are going to depend on whatever they can get from they're going to depend on whatever they can get from the size that they already have. And it's not like it's crazy size. We all kind of understand that. They got a lot of guys that are probably 6'7" to 6'9". The good thing about a lot of these players, these dudes got girth. They're not, guys that are going to get pushed around or shoved around. LeBron, Rui, Jackson Hayes, obviously, I'm not talking about because Hayes is really technically the only 7-footer that the Lakers have. So whether you wanted to see Trey Jemison III or you wanted to see Christian Coloco, whether you wanted to see these guys on the roster or not, the reality is, how much playing time were those guys going to get anyways? Trey Jemison III was a little interesting to me. I did think there might be some times where you can use him, just have him at least as somebody that you can go to. That's not going to be the case for the Lakers. So they're not going to be relying on a lot of their bigs anyways. It's going to be, if they're going to be winning a series, it's because Rui, Jared Vanderbilt, Dorian Finney-Smith, LeBron James, and Jackson Hayes tried holding it down low, with Luka a little bit as well. Luka's obviously a bigger guard as well. But for the most part, that's something to keep in mind there. Another thing that I saw from Dave yesterday as well, JJ Redick said he wanted to use Tuesday's evening practice to be more about physical movement and shooting than mental prep for Minnesota. Everyone participated, including Maxi Kleber. However, Redick said there's no return timeline update for Maxi Kleber. So keep that in mind as well as we all kind of, look at this roster and we're paying attention to what players the Lakers could potentially have down the road. Maxi Kleber practiced, but there's no return timetable timeline for Maxi Kleber. So what does that ultimately mean? It just basically means if the Lakers go on a true long run, then maybe they got a shot here of getting Maxi Kleber back. But if that's not the case, then obviously we know what that means there. All right, let me see. Let me show you guys one other thing that I want to share with everybody here. The full first round schedule kind of finally came out. So here's the first full round schedule. Grabbing this from Dave McMenamin as well. So, guys, this is the part that I'm talking about that is such an advantage for the Lakers once you get to the postseason. Now, they're already going to get a full week off. They've been sitting. They'll be chilling. They'll be ready to go on Saturday. Guys, Saturday night game at 5:30. Your next game is not till Tuesday. You don't have to travel anywhere. You get Sunday and Monday off as well. Tuesday, you get Minnesota. Okay, now you got to travel to Minnesota. You get Wednesday and Thursday off before you play your game on Friday. Sunday will be the quickest turnaround, right? Because you got a 6:30 game on a Friday and then a 12:30 game in Minnesota. That's the only day that I would say, okay, that one's going to be a little bit tight for the Lakers. It's not 48 hours, it's 36 hours. Okay, but after that, where do you go? You get Tuesday and Wednesday back off. So I do think for the Lakers, this is just kind of phenomenal how they get a little bit of spacing here, especially in the beginning of the series. I know as the series kind of goes on, maybe it becomes a little bit of a disadvantage for the Lakers. But either way, it is not going to be an issue, and it won't be an issue. And I am a big fan of the fact that the Lakers obviously will get a little bit of extra rest as we start the series. They already got a week off. LeBron, what did Lakers play? LeBron and Luka played on Friday. What was it? April 11th. And they're not leaving LA until, what is it, almost 2 weeks or something like that, a week and a half that they won't have to leave LA. So that's obviously a nice advantage for the Lakers as well. Okay. Let me kind of take a look at a couple of the comments here, and then there's a few storylines that I want to get into as well. Let's see what we got here. Practice, by the way, you're right about that. The fact that the Lakers are actually getting practices is unbelievable in itself. Lath, thank you, brother. I appreciate the super very much. Morning, Slee. Hypothetically speaking, if Nico gets tossed and there's new ownership in Dallas this summer that is willing to approach Luka, how likely is it he's going to be going back in free agency? Lath, this is a good conversation. I'm gonna hold off on it because I got something here on Luka that I want to get into, and I'd like to actually kind of do that all together. So let me hold off on that one real quick. I'm going to hold off just for a second because I'm going to be getting to Luka here in just a second. Yeah, I don't think Nico goes anywhere, by the way, just because I think Nico is basically been the punching bag for that ownership. And, shame on that ownership that even if Nico came with the idea of moving on from Luka Doncic, the fact that they would actually approve it is absurd, and it's, obviously in itself. Okay, I'll come back to that comment in just a second. Let me get a couple more of these comments in, and then we'll keep going. Everyone remembers Kleber hitting a game-winning shot against the Lakers, but no one remembers how surprising that was because he sucks. Maxi Kleber is not a bad player. I'll tell you, if you told me Maxi Kleber has a chance to be on this Lakers roster for the playoffs, awesome, phenomenal. I'll take him in a second. Nobody's saying he's going to play 35 minutes for you, but 15 minutes, another big that can stretch the floor, you take that in a heartbeat. They need Maxi Kleber. So if Maxi Kleber is available, I would love nothing more than to see Maxi Kleber on this team. Again, and nobody's saying he's Akeem Olajuwon, nor do they need him to be Akeem Olajuwon. All right, let's see what Nico did, what the owners told him. Owners traded Nico. Owners traded Luka, not Nico. Yeah, that part's true. Okay, let me talk Luka here real quick, and then I could get back to that comment as we do this here. Should have. I'm planning on it, but we'll see. Sometimes, things can happen in the middle of a show, so we'll figure it out. Should have Alan Horton at 8:30, but we'll kind of time that out and see what happens here. Okay, so real quick here on Luka. Here's the thing that I'm most looking forward to in this playoff run for the Lakers. Let's just call it the first round because you never know what can happen. Tomorrow I'm going to have another person on from the Minnesota Timberwolves. I'm looking forward to that. As a guy that covers the Minnesota Timberwolves for The Athletic, I'm having Dan Weike on tomorrow. So we're going to go back to back. I'll tell you guys a little bit about what's going on tomorrow because it's no live show tomorrow. It's a recorded show. But real quick on Luka. One of the things I'm most excited about watching in this playoff run, I want to see Luka. I mean, more than anything else, I want to see greatness from Luka. Here's the beauty with Luka. 26 years old. He's had a phenomenal start to his career. He's already been to a conference finals. He's already been to an NBA finals. He thought he was building something special in Dallas, and then bam, he gets traded on February 1st. He becomes a Laker. If you ask anybody out there, hey, what is your take on Luka Doncic? They're going to say, oh, man, what a, unbelievable player, international superstar. Guy's been playing professional since he was 16, 17 in Europe, came into the NBA. Man, this guy is likes the big moments. He's a killer. He can hit big shots, this, that, this, and that. Everybody kind of describes what Luka is. And then if you describe, okay, but what's Luka in the playoffs? Then everybody kind of takes a step back. They're like, all right, no, he's actually better in the playoffs than he is in the regular season. Okay, well, that's unique. Typically, only the some of the greatest to ever do it or some of the legends are better. If they're phenomenal all-stars, MVP caliber players, they're better in the postseason. Okay, the moment got bigger and that player got better. What I'm most looking forward to watch with Luka this upcoming year or this upcoming playoffs that start on Saturday. I know there's a player that has been already a killer in the playoffs, has taken out teams like the Clippers, have ended the hopes and dreams of the Minnesota Timberwolves, has taken out the Oklahoma City Thunder, had buried the Phoenix Suns that pretty much ended that franchise's run, and you see where they are now. He has taken the soul of certain franchises and certain teams, and it's happened in the postseason. What I'm excited about with Luka is this is his first playoff run with the purple and gold. This is his first playoff run with the Los Angeles Lakers. This is his first playoff run with a team where he already has a ton of playoff experience, that he's already gone through a ton of big moments. He's already gone through a ton of, great wins, tough losses, big-time shots, buzzer beaters. He's kind of done all this stuff already. This isn't new to him. The only new thing to him now, he's with arguably the most popular franchise in the NBA, one of the most popular franchises in the world, number one. And number two, he gets to do it with LeBron. One of the greatest performers to ever be a part of the game. What I'm most excited about starting on Saturday, you get to see Luka Doncic, who's been unbelievable to start his career, not just in the regular season, but even better in the playoffs. And now with all this experience, he gets to do that. He gets to take that playoff run with the Lakers. That by far is what I'm most excited about. Okay, it'll be cool what the team does, chemistry, JJ Redick, LeBron, Austin Reeves, all that stuff. I'm going to have my eyes glued on Luka Doncic because I do feel like this man understands the moment. He understands the big lights. He understands, there's levels to the game. This is his first playoff run as a Laker. Roster's not perfect. I don't know how far they're going to go this year, but doesn't that get you excited about what could eventually happen with Luka as a Los Angeles Laker? That to me is by far what I'm most looking forward to. I do think that there's, obviously levels to this thing, and I think Luka's going to take his game to another level. His last 5 games for the Lakers, let me point it out because I've talked about it before, and I'm going to show you guys. And the reason why is he's playing his best basketball as a Laker right now. It's happening right now as we sit here, as we go into the postseason. You can kind of take back all the stuff of, all right, well, what is Luka? I'm trying to kind of think specifically here. Okay, he had the shock of the trade. Then he got a chance to play the Dallas Mavericks. And now it's like all that stuff is over. His last 5 games with the Lakers, 35-6-6, 37-6, 45-8-6, 39-8-7. And the only game where his numbers were down 23-5-3 is when he got that second technical foul, was kicked out against the Oklahoma City Thunder. I'm ready for Luka. You guys take any storyline that you guys want. I'm ready for Luka. I'm ready to see what Luka's going to be come playoff time, and I'm ready to see what Luka's going to be in this first playoff run for the Lakers. All right, let's take a look at some of these comments here. All right, stop saying one of the greatest and say the greatest. One of the greatest. One of the greatest. There are many greatests. Not many. There's a few of them. LeBron's in there. Kareem's in there. Jordan's in there. Wilt's in there. All right, let me get a couple more in this here. He has motivation now, especially as a Laker. All right, we'll keep going here. All right, here's one more I look forward to Luka in the playoffs. All right, that's enough of me. When a man of the caliber of Alan Horton is waiting, play-by-play voice of the Minnesota Timberwolves, then I get the hell out of the way.
What's up, Alan?
What's going on, brother? How are you doing?
I'm great. Can't wait to get to LA. Let's get this series going.
All right. When do you guys arrive?
Yeah, it's a little tricky because Saturday's game is a little bit early, so you don't really have time for a shoot around Saturday. So they're going to get in. They're going to practice tomorrow, fly in the afternoon, and then get in. Battle some traffic and stuff. But at least that's Thursday. Then probably get a workout in on Friday. And so the answer to your question is tomorrow.
Okay. During practices, do you guard Ant or do you guard? Who do you guard during practices?
I'm always open to coaching. So I go where I'm directed to go. Most of the times it's plant your backside right on that seat right there and don't say or do anything. Don't look at your phone. Don't open up your computer and pay attention. That's usually the instruction I get.
That's awesome. All right. So for those who don't know, Alan Horton's been on the show before. Used to always come on with me on radio and is the voice of the Minnesota Timberwolves. So Horton, let me start off with this because I was just kind of hyping myself up of seeing Luka for the first time as a Laker in a playoff round. Can you take me back? Take me back to last year. And I know the teams aren't the same. And I know Luka obviously is now with the Lakers. And I know it's not apples to apples. But Luka last year, you got a chance to watch him against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Obviously, that series, a chance to go to the NBA Finals. What is Luka in the playoffs that you feel like is a little bit different of what you see Luka in the regular season? And if you could kind of just take us back to that series, I think for a lot of Laker fans out there, you got to see every single possession. What was that like last year with Luka?
Yeah, so that was in the Western Conference Finals, and Luka was unbelievable. I thought the Mavericks were unbelievable, led by Luka, but Kyrie played off of him and played spectacularly as well. The Wolves only won one game in that series. And, people remember Luka isolating Rudy for the game winner in game 2, I think that was. But Luka was incredible. And everything the Wolves threw at him, he had an answer for. But it wasn't just Luka. Like, the whole team was playing really well. Like, the big men of Lively and Gafford were rolling to the rim. I mean, they feasted on alley-oops. They feasted on shots at the rim. And if it wasn't those guys, it was Luka scoring, it was Kyrie on the wing, or it's maybe a Derrick Jones Jr. and a PJ Washington corner three. They had it all flowing. And obviously that got blown up by Boston in the finals. But in that series, in that Western Conference Finals, the Timberwolves were just steamrolled. Even though those first 2 games at home were close, you lose those first 2 games at home, you're really in trouble in a series. Even though you have a long window, it could be 7 games, but it's tough to come back from that. Luka was unbelievable. He controlled everything. When he's on, there might not be another guy in the league that can control a game as well as he does, in my opinion.
Okay, so with that in mind, and it's kind of funny when you put it that way. Lakers roster is completely different. So the advantage is that you talked about how Luka was so great of just kind of orchestrating and controlling everything. How do you feel, and I know this is more of a Laker question, but how do you feel those bigs Lakers do not have that size. It's actually one of their disadvantages, but they kind of find themselves spreading out the floor more.
Yep.
How does that play to Minnesota's advantage, Minnesota's disadvantage? Are there things that, you kind of look at what last year was? Luka now, it's not going to be, okay, you might get a couple lobs occasionally here and there, but that's not going to be the backbone of how Luka's going to hurt you or how the Lakers are going to hurt you.
Yeah, he's not doing that 5 or 6 times a game like it felt like he was in that Western Conference Finals. So that I do think that's an advantage for the Timberwolves, the fact that they're not facing Gafford and Lively and how successful that aspect of Luka was. But Luka's just still always a handful. And I think, as much as the Wolves want Anthony Edwards to rise to the occasion, we know that LeBron and Luka are going to rise to the occasion too. That's what makes the playoffs special, is these great players leveling up in the postseason when they know so much is on the line. And so it's going to be a handful. I think I think the Wolves are going to throw everything at Luka. I think you're going to see some Jaden McDaniels. You're going to see some Anthony Edwards. I think you might even see the size of Julius Randle being a little more physical and trying to change things up on Luka, because that's what you have to do. You can't feed him a steady diet of one thing, because he'll eventually figure it out. And not even eventually, he'll figure it out pretty quick. So you've got to vary things almost by a possession basis, or maybe a stretch of possessions here, then switch things up. And I think the way the Wolves are playing, I think they feel confident. You know, they went 17-4 over the last 21 games. That was, and there was a lot of, even though I would say their opponents were not the strongest. It was a weak portion of their opponent's schedule, but they took advantage of it, and they were high leverage games, high importance games, because they're fighting for a playoff spot every single night for the last 2 months. And so I think they feel good about the way they're playing heading into this series.
Well, why do you think? Is it because of the matchup? Because I feel like if you go ask around the league, I put up something yesterday. I think there were X amount of experts. All of them picked the Lakers over the Minnesota Timberwolves. Is it more the matchup? Can Minnesota be playing good basketball and have what they feel like is a good roster, but could a lot of people just not like the fact that you pulled Lakers in the first round with Luka and LeBron? Is it more about the matchup that you think more people are leaning towards the Lakers?
I think it's the cachet of LA. I think it's the cachet of LeBron and Luka. I think, and also the fact that the Lakers are the 3 seed, even though there's only a 1-game difference between the Wolves and the Lakers. Sure. 49 wins to 50 wins. I think people look at that 3-6 seed, and the Lakers should be a favorite. You know, they've got the home court advantage. They're the higher seed. But when you dig into the numbers a little bit, it's interesting that, you know, I always like to look at things throughout the course of the season, estimated win-loss record, right? Like how are you performing as a team? What should that equate to a win total? And the Wolves were a -6 this year. So they should have 6 more wins than they do. The Lakers were a +5. They overplayed. And what you can usually look at is clutch time, close games. The Lakers were exceptional in close games down the stretch. They're in the top 10. The Wolves are in the bottom 10. And that's where the difference is. And you know that playoff games are eventually going to come down to close games. Maybe not every game of a series, but most of them are. And that's really the concern, I think, where there's a separator, a clear difference between these two teams. When you've got Luka, you've got LeBron, they know how to make those plays down the stretch. And the Wolves, who have been really good in clutch time under Chris Finch until this year, 20-26. They played more clutch time games than any team in the league, but they have the second most number of losses in clutch time. And their offense and defense are not as good in clutch time as they are in the other parts of the game. And so,
can I ask you real quick? Is that whose shoulders? Is that coaching thing? Is it personnel? Is it why such the struggle at the end?
It's been interesting this year. When you have Anthony Edwards, he is obviously the best player on the team, and he wants those shots. You know he wants those shots, and he's been given those shots. But the Wolves have not found a balance between getting Anthony Edwards those shots and creating good shots. Those two things have not been mutually exclusive. And they get it to Ant, and all of a sudden, well, defenses know that Anthony Edwards is going to get the ball. They're running to at him, that now he's forced to pass off it. And sometimes they go in too late, and all of a sudden there's only 3 seconds left. There's no chance for Ant to get the ball back. And now you're left with one of the other guys trying to create one-on-one, when really Anthony Edwards is the guy who you want creating one-on-one. So the Wolves have struggled to find a balance between getting Ant those shots, but also, you know, I was just thinking about the Warriors, maybe not last night, but I think it was in that game against the Clippers. You know, they went away from Steph Curry with the game on the line. They lost to LA in the overtime. They went to Buddy Hield. Right. You have to keep defenses honest, and you almost have to use – sometimes Steph Curry's a decoy. Well, I think Anthony Edwards has to be that sometimes too, where so much attention is going to him. Maybe you run something else that gets someone else involved, and then maybe the next time around, defenses have to play you a little more honest, because they know, hey, it's not just going to be Anthony Edwards in this moment. But that's a tough balance to strike when you've got someone you know, with Ant's mindset that he wants those moments. He wants the ball in his hands. He wants that shot. It just hasn't turned into a very good shot often. Yes, he's been a tough shot maker. He can make difficult shots, but with the game on the line and everybody focused on him, it's been a struggle to hit those shots.
Yeah, I don't know how much this plays to the Lakers' advantage, but I've spent most of this week basically talking about how if it becomes hero ball with Anthony Edwards, it's not going to be a very long series, and it just seems like to me, and I'm not watching enough of these games, but at least not watching enough of the Minnesota Timberwolves games. That seems like a guy like JJ Redick will find a way to say, cool, we will be happy to take advantage of Anthony Edwards wants to be the savior of the series. And that's why I almost feel like a guy like Chris Finch or that coaching staff, I love what you just said. Hey, I know Anthony Edwards wants to take these shots. Nobody's saying that he's going to shy away from them. Is it the smart thing to do? How do we maybe use him as a decoy? And then all of a sudden we found something easy for Julius Randle, whatever the case is. That I think will be an interesting storyline to watch. I just mentioned Julius Randle, and I'm curious from your perspective, how important is he to this series? How important is he if the Minnesota Timberwolves are going to have success and potentially move on to round 2? How important is Julius Randle in this mix?
It's big. It's really big. And back to your prior point about Ant, this has been the battle within the team all season long. The Wolves have been on this roller coaster ride, ups and downs, and obviously more ups than downs when you finish 49-33. But they've gone in the peaks. They've gone to the peaks and they've gone in the valleys just way too many times. And that inconsistency, or I like to say consistently inconsistent, is usually tied to Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle. They just. It's kind of in their DNA to get the ball in their hands and make plays usually for themselves first, although both can get in the mode where they're excellent distributors. And that's when the Wolves are at their best. So if the Wolves are going to get out of the first round and beat the Lakers, they have to have Anthony Edwards first, Julius Randle second, making the right plays and the right decisions offensively. And when they do that, that's when the Wolves have had success. That's why they've gone 17-4 in their last 21 games. In there, they dropped 3 of 4, and maybe it was a little too Randle and Ant centric, and they didn't distribute as well. They've got to recognize what defenses are doing, get off the ball, trust their teammates. Guys have to. Mike Conley was talking about this yesterday. We have to, not only is it Ant's decision and Julius's decision when the ball in their hands, but it's up to the other players to make the right cuts at the right time, make the right decisions as well, and knock down open shots. Because we've seen throughout the season that teams are willing to let Mike Conley have an occasional shot, an open shot. They're daring Jaden McDaniels to hit a corner 3, and he's been very inconsistent on that this year. And so those guys have to fill their roles to make it work for Ant and Julius. And again, it's kind of the thing where if Ant and Julius get off it, they'll get it back, and they'll get it back in better position, maybe not on that particular possession, but later possessions, because now defenses have to be spread out. And if Mike Conley is knocking down 3 threes and Jaden's knocking down a couple of threes and cutting from the baseline, if Rudy is a factor inside, Rudy's been playing really well. I know a lot of people like to think, well, if the Lakers play ball, well, that Rudy is going to be played right off the floor. I don't think that's going to be the case. That's always kind of been the knock on Rudy ever since his Utah days. I haven't seen it in the 3 years that he's led the Timberwolves to a top 10 defense and led them to the playoffs in each of those 3 years. He hasn't been played off the floor. Yeah, he got burned by Luka in the Western Conference Finals, but he certainly wasn't the only one. That was not a great series for the Timberwolves in general, not just Rudy.
Yeah, I think people they don't like Rudy and they target him and they bring him up every single time. I think Luka's hit a few more step back threes over other players as well, but Rudy seems to be the one only everybody talks about. Yeah, it's interesting what you said it, because I do think that if there's a formula, let's put this is my experience watching the Lakers this year and JJ this year. If they find a weakness, they will expose it, and they will continue to expose it. And I think what you just said, the probably will be, can they bait Anthony Edwards into hero ball? Can they bait Julius Randle into not facilitating and trying to kind of be a little bit more centric towards scoring? Because when I look at Minnesota's roster, 8-9 guys that you could legitimately say can get good playing time and can contribute, but the head of the snake is one guy, and it's Anthony Edwards. And it feels like if they're able to play team ball is moving, and there's a balance. It's like Naz Reid got you some, Julius Randle kind of filled up the stat sheet. And it's not just all on Anthony Edwards back. That feels like that's the only recipe to really have kind of sustained success for Minnesota. And we'll see what happens. But the Randle piece to me seems like that could be a really key factor in this series, because I've seen Julius Randle play phenomenal basketball. I've seen Julius Randle all over the place. I know he's had some issues in the playoffs. So it's going to be, it's going to be fascinating to watch. The bench players, the Naz Reid, Dante DiVincenzo, Nikhil Walker-Alexander. Can you talk a little bit about just how, if the star power goes to the Lakers because of Luka, LeBron, and certainly the way AR's been playing, what's the depth look like for Minnesota?
I think they feel like they have the better depth with those three guys that you mentioned. And when those guys are clicking, they're basically, I mean, Chris Finch has said it all season, they basically have 8 starters. They feel very comfortable if Dante were to start or Nikhil were to start, and Naz is filled in when Julius has been out or Rudy has been out. So they feel like they can go to their bench and not miss a step. There's no sort of drop off. And you're talking about experienced guys, Dante, Naz, Nikhil, they've all been there now for multiple seasons. And they've been crucial parts to this team's success. And, Nikhil can at times be a very good wing defender. I don't think he's probably reached the level he did last year, but I think when you get to the postseason, we'll find out more starting Saturday night, because I really do think guys dial it up. And I really do think that Timberwolves have been, an 82-game grind is a long way. And this team, while it didn't get to the NBA Finals last year, they went all the way to the Western Conference Finals. They played to May 31st. That's longer than most of these guys, maybe with the exception of Mike Conley and Rudy Gobert have been there before. But for most guys, that was a short summer. I mean, it was a long grind. And then to start it all up again, there's almost this feeling like, okay, great, we got through 82 games. We caught our breath. We don't have to play in the play-in. And now we can – this is where Chris Finch and his staff are really good, Alan. Last year, I thought – because we've been in the play-in for 2 straight years. Last year, no play-in. You got the week off. Rest, recuperate, prepare, get some practice time, get dialed in. And they swept Phoenix 4-0. Not only when you sweep Phoenix, but then they got more time before that Denver series. And I think that paid huge dividends. The one downside was that when you get to the Western Conference Finals, you didn't have that break. The Wolves didn't finish off Denver early enough. You win the first 2 games on their floor, you should close out that series in 5, maybe 6 games. And had they done that, I think they would have had a little more of a window to rest, recuperate, prepare. And I think that Dallas series, I don't want to say they would have won it, but I think it would have been a longer series and a different series. And so there was sort of this thought. That's why the Wolves went 17-4 down the stretch. They knew they didn't want to end up in the play-in. The goal was top 6. They got there with a little help. They could have jumped up to 4 on the final day, could have jumped up to 5. Didn't happen. And it's actually a little bit, on my perspective, a little refreshing to see someone other than Denver. I'm so tired of seeing the Denver Nuggets. Over the last 2 years, we played them something like 23 times.
Oh, my gosh.
2 playoff series plus 4 meetings in the regular season. And you never want to tempt fate, even though the Wolves have had the Nuggets number. I mean, you're going against Jokic. Last time we saw him, all he did was have a 60-point triple-double against the Wolves in that double overtime game a few weeks ago. But I think the Wolves are kind of resetting, and I'm really fascinated to see how both teams come out and play on Saturday. I know we all are, but it's great to have the build-up to it as well, where we can talk about it and read about it and kind of get prepared for it. Big stage, obviously, with ABC carrying the game. The whole nation's going to be watching. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'm with you on the fresh matchups too. I didn't want to see Lakers and the Warriors again. I'm like, can we wait on that? I feel like there's you got Denver and the Clippers playing each other. Okay, kind of a fresh new matchup. Right. We'll see who OKC ends up taking on. But then you got our matchups plus the Houston and Golden State. I think that's going to be a really good series. So absolutely. I do think
that kind of renews a rivalry too, because those teams met up with in the Curry Harden era.
That's right.
Like 3 years in a row, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Final one, and we'll let you go. And I appreciate the time as always. Okay. Kind of looking at this, and I know there's we've been watching this man for a long time. We've been watching LeBron, 22 years, getting a chance again to go through a postseason run. How do you look at dealing with LeBron when he doesn't necessarily have the ball in his hands every single possession like he's had predominantly in his career? It's going to be Luka.
Yeah.
what's that adjustment you think for players in the league that are so accustomed to seeing LeBron with the ball? It's not that LeBron can't play off the ball. It's just when he's the quarterback, he's the quarterback. Yeah. What is that? What is that? How do you think they guard LeBron? How do you think they pay attention to LeBron? What are kind of some of those aspects?
Well, I think the thing you have to start with is cutting him off in transition because, he gets – you're right. He's not as ball dominant and the scoring isn't what it used to be. But when he's – he gets like 33% of his points like in transition. Like he's just when that freight train gets going downhill, forget about it. You just can't – it's very difficult to defend with his size and strength and obviously his shooting touch. But you've got to – Julius Randle was asked about defensive transition. The Lakers aren't a great running team, but they do pick their moments, and those baseball pass up ahead, the football passes up ahead. Julius Randle summed it up by saying, get your ass back. That's the philosophy we have. You just got to get back and show him and the rest of the Lakers bodies before they get in the paint and attack the rim because they want to attack the rim. And I think that's where it starts for LeBron. You have to limit him in transition because if he gets going there, then he's going to do his damage in the half court when he does have the ball or goes one-on-one or posts up or knocks down a couple of threes. But I think you start in transition and work off of that. But it's awfully difficult when you have, you're loading up on Luka. Okay, we're throwing Ant at him. We're throwing Jaden at him. How about Julius Randle, like I mentioned? There's LeBron over there on the wing. We got who's guarding him? How are we going with size? We going with strength? Now you're using another top defender to guard him. It just becomes really hard. And then when you start factoring in, hey, all the pick and rolls that Luka's going to set up and get mismatches on, now that switches people on LeBron as well. So it just creates a really challenging task to slow the Lakers down when they've got those two key pieces that are just, LeBron's a legend already and Luka's on his way to becoming one. Still can't believe that he's in a Laker uniform. I can't believe that somehow the Lakers have, not only increased their chances, saved their season this year, but just locked up their future for the next 10 plus years. I just can't believe that happened. I know.
Well, here's the good news. Nico does not regret it. He does not regret it.
He's going to double down.
He's doubling down.
He's going to quadruple down.
By the way, just real quick, does this series, how critical is this series for Minnesota to justify the Karl Anthony? Is there a lot of conversations about that, hey, that cat trade and this kind of quiets things, or does it not?
I don't think so. I think it's something they've moved on from. Not only the fan base, but the team certainly has as well. Teams do that very quickly. Every year it's a different season. You got different guys, and they talk about it before the year. It's like, hey, we don't know what the future holds for any of us. This will be the only time this particular group with this coaching staff and all the staff members and everybody who's a big part of the behind the scenes. Each team has an army of people, whether it's player development coaches, training staff, masseuse, all this stuff, all the way down the line. And so every year that's different. And as soon as the Cat trade, it was a little bit different. It was different for fans. It was different to see Cat in a Knicks uniform running up and down the floor and playing big minutes for Tibbs again. But I think everybody's kind of moved on from it at this point. They understood that there were some ramifications down the line of why this trade was made. Even if Julius he's got a player option for next season, he could still opt into that, and the Wolves would look very similar next year as they do this year. But long term, it wasn't going to work with three max players. It's difficult to do with the salary cap the way it is. So I don't think this series has really anything to do with that and justifying that. I think it's at this point, everybody's kind of moved on from it. Maybe that will change if the Wolves were to go out in round one and the Knicks were to go on to the Eastern Conference Finals, or vice versa. The Wolves went to the Western Conference Finals and the Knicks got knocked out in the first round by Detroit. Maybe that becomes kind of a storyline, but I really don't think it is. And I certainly know the Wolves aren't focusing on that.
Great stuff, brother. All right, we'll see you on Saturday. I know you how do they do it again? You get like your own private, how does it work again? Because I know every time I see you, there's security guards everywhere, and there's
I didn't know where this was heading, but anytime you heard the word private, I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be good. I thought you were talking about private plane to fly me out, private limo to
that we already know that. I'm just saying, how'd you get from the hotel to the arena? And then the amount of security that you have going to the broadcast booth, it's just you're overdoing it. I'm just telling you.
It's not my choice. People above me want to protect me, and they want to make sure I'm safe.
You're so hungry for attention. I mean, it's just unbelievable, Horton.
It's tough to do in LA too. I mean, I'm competing against this is the cream of the crop. Whether it's the courtside people, whether it's Michael Thompson, all the Stu Lance,
whole crew.
of course. Yeah.
All right, buddy. We'll see you on Saturday. Thank you for the time.
Alan, you got it. Anytime. It should be a great series, and always fun being on with you.
Okay, buddy. We'll see you soon.
Peace.
All right, that's Alan Horton right there. Good man, good stuff. Love that guy. Good dude. All right, great stuff. Great insight. This is one of the things that I think is very important. You start getting into the playoffs and the postseason. I want the narrative from the other side. I want somebody to explain to me, all right, well, here's why Minnesota can be dangerous. Will they be dangerous? This is how they could potentially win the series. That's kind of the whole point of this. I don't want to make it one-sided at all. I got to give a shout out here. Shout out. What do we got one right here? By the way, it's a phenomenal sweater here. Guys like, hey, do you want a sweater? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take that. Brad Wallace Firm, proud partner of the Sliwa Show. Shout out to them. Great person. I've known him now. Consider him a friend. Known him for about 5 years. He supported me when I was at 710. Now supporting me when I'm on YouTube. If you or someone you know is in a serious injury, you should reach out to Brad Wallace. Let him walk you or your family through your legal options. I'm sure it's a very intimidating and daunting process. Let an expert in the field help you. He can help you. He can help anybody, by the way, in the state of California. So if you're in the state of California, you've been in a situation, serious injury case, something along those lines, it's a family member, you don't really know what to do, you can ask me. I'll send you a personal email with Brad Wallace on there. I can make an introduction. He's certainly somebody that I trust, that I appreciate, that I know will take care of listeners if anybody's ever in a situation or predicament. Again, the hope is you or a family member is not in a situation where you need him, but a lot of times people get into situations and they settle with insurance companies and they're not really sure what to do. Don't do that. Give Brad Wallace a call or go to our URL, wallacewins.com/Sliwa, wallacewins.com/Sliwa. You get an absolutely free consultation. You don't pay them until they win for you. So that's obviously another clear advantage as well. And they can help anybody in the state of California. Shout out to Brad Wallace and his team over there for supporting the channel and hopefully helping anybody out there that needs the help. All right, let's take a look at a couple comments here. We'll do a couple more things here to get into before we get out of here. Lath, I'm going to go back to something that you said. By the way, I love this one. Thanks, Lee. Alan Hoare is a really good analyst for the Wolves. Very good discussion. Appreciate that, Dub T. Anytime you guys send something like that, it's like, all right, phenomenal. As long as you guys are liking it, then job is being done. Lath put this up here a little bit earlier. Lath, thank you for the super again. Hypothetically speaking, if Nico gets tossed and there's new ownership in Dallas this summer that is willing to approach Luka, how likely do you think he's going back in free agency? Let me say this, and, a couple things have happened here in the last couple of days. I don't know if you guys saw this article a couple of days ago, and this will tie back to what Lath is saying here. Luka, his number 77 jersey, Laker jersey, was the NBA's most popular for the 2024-2025 regular season based on NBA Store.com sales, the league announced. The Lakers were, by the way, also the number one team in merchandise on the merchandise list. Doncic becomes the first player other than LeBron and Steph to lead in jersey sales since 2012-2013. He is also the first international player to top the most popular jerseys list the league announced. Okay, why am I bringing this up? I'm just bringing this up because I just don't think Luka's going anywhere. I've seen people, say, hey, Al, do you think Luka's going to be there long-term? Hey, is this something that, is it a lock? Is it a guarantee? No, nothing's a lock or a guarantee, but here's what the Lakers know what to do. If there's one thing the Lakers are really, really good at, here's what they're really good at. Getting a star and keeping a star. If the Lakers get their hands on a superstar, there's a very good chance that superstar is going to stay with the Lakers for a pretty long time. For the Lakers right now, in ownership and front office, they got Luka. They will do absolutely everything in their power to make sure that Luka's here for the present and here for the future. Here's another thing the Lakers do a pretty damn good job of. They have 17 NBA championships. They want to compete for championships. Jeannie Buss wants to compete for championships. The organization, the family, the fan base, everybody is just always hungry for championships. Luka gives you a much greater chance in the present and in the future to accomplish that goal. So whatever the hell Luka wants, whatever other player they have to surround him with and surround a supporting cast with, they're going to accommodate to Luka. So I think to go on Lath, what you mentioned here, I'm just not one that's worried about Luka leaving the Los Angeles Lakers. And even if hypothetically the Mavs owner or Nico Harrison gets fired or something along those lines, here's the only way I could see Luka even considering Dallas, the Dallas Mavericks again. Maybe wins a championship in LA and kind of gets that out of the way. It's like, all right, well, I already got that accomplished. Ownership changes. Nico isn't there, and they have a badass roster, and he goes back to them. But, like, think about how many different things have to happen there in order for him to even consider it. I don't think he's going anywhere. Speaking of Nico Harrison, by the way, Leigh, thank you again for the super. I appreciate you, brother. Speaking of Nico Harrison, somebody want to explain to me, I mean, you really just cannot have – it's impossible that you have this many F-ups from one franchise. Nico Harrison held a small presser yesterday with local media. No videos, no audio, no cameras, nothing. Just a pen and paper. Let's do it old school. Do you guys not think that the media is going to make a big deal about that, of saying, what the hell are you guys talking about? In 2025, you're telling us not to bring any electronics? What are we doing here? What is this, the FBI? They hold this meeting. By the way, I think also the new Mavs CEO, Rick Welts, was there as well, who might have had one of the dumbest comparisons I've ever heard of, but I'll get to that in just a second. Nico was asked about the trade. Here's what he said. There's no regrets on the trade. Part of my job is to do the best thing for the Mavericks, not only today, but also in the future. And some of the decisions I'm going to make are going to be unpopular. That's my job, and I have to stand by it. Okay. If I just take that one comment, and to be honest with you, I think at this point, there's nothing they could say. I think if I'm Nico Harrison, this is the only thing that I would say. I would say, listen, I know this trade made a lot of noise. I understand that. We felt like to win an NBA championship over the next couple of years, this is the trade we needed to make. We needed the size. We needed the defensive ability. And, you know, unfortunately, Kyrie got injured. AD got injured. And our vision can't come to fruition this year, so we're going to try to see if it could come to fruition next year. And if 5 years from now our vision doesn't come true and Luka has wild success somewhere else, then yes, we'll probably be looked at as one of the worst trades in NBA history, and I'm going to have to just own that. There's no regrets on the trade, okay? By the way, I love this piece too, that part of my job is to do what's in the best interest of the Mavericks. Well, that doesn't sound like it was in the best interest short-term, long-term, financially, business-wise, but is what it is. The new CEO had I was listening to a podcast yesterday talking about it, that they tried making the comparison, the new CEO. Remember when Monte Ellis was in Golden State, and when he got traded, the Warrior fans were really upset. But really what they were trying to do is kind of open up opportunities for Steph. So they tried using the example of Monte Ellis. Like, guys, is that you want to compare Monte and Luka Doncic? Are you guys sure? Are we all talking before you guys put these meetings together? Is there any brainstorming going on of, hey, if we're hit with something like this, this is our response? Just complete stupidity. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. So the Dallas Mavericks are doubling, tripling down, doing whatever they're doing, and it is what it is. He did say we target AD with our philosophy of defense wins championships. He kind of kept going back to that. It has to be defense, two-way players. So they are I feel like whatever they say is going to be taken they're going to be criticized anyways. But I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. I don't think there's anything that franchise can do right now that makes any sense. They compared Monte Ellis, to Luka Doncic. Monte. Somebody had said, which I think is a really good point. Somebody said, no. Don't compare Monte to Luka. Compare trading Steph before even, maybe Steph won one championship. And then that's when you traded him. Something like that. Or Steph at his peak before he won a championship, his popularity, and then you traded Steph for a two-way player or something along those lines. All right. So however you guys want to put that, that's a little bit more information on our boy Nico, which I do believe should have a jersey at Crypto. Okay. If you guys got a couple ass sleeves, throw them in. I can only go for about another 5-6 minutes or so, and then I got to get out of here. If you got any ass sleeves, throw them in. Let me just give everyone a quick idea here. Give a quick idea what's going on here the next couple of days, because the schedule is not going to be the same the next couple of days. Tomorrow, I am doing a show. I have 2 guests for tomorrow. Dan Wyke of the LA Times and John, and I got to find his last name here real quick, because John Krasinski, who covers the Minnesota Timberwolves for The Athletic. So I got somebody covering the Lakers from the LA Times, somebody covering the Minnesota Timberwolves from The Athletic. It's a recorded show that will be posted tomorrow at 8 a.m. No live show tomorrow. A recorded 1-hour show tomorrow that's posted at 8 a.m. And then Friday, no show. So Friday, I'm taking the day off. So I just want you guys to know that. Saturday, I'm back. I'll be doing, obviously, the post-game show after Lakers take on the Timberwolves. And then also Sammy's going to be putting out a video coming up on Friday, probably around the same time. It'll be an extended a preview show for the first game against the Minnesota Timberwolves. So just to give everyone an idea, that's what we got going on. All right, let me see what we got here. See if we got a couple ass sleeves here. Slee, if you had to move away from California, which state would you move to and why? Oh, very nice. I like this. That's a good question. I like kind of the northwest of San Diego of the states here. I'm a fan of Washington. I like Oregon. I like the greenery. You know what I'm saying? Fresh trees, outdoor. I kind of like that. So that's kind of an interesting place up there. Granted, it probably rains all the time. I don't think I'd go out to the East Coast. I feel like that's too far. Too far. Good question. I appreciate you asking the question. All right, let's see what else we got here. All right, see what else we got here. Slee, you're going to game 1. I will be there. So yesterday got approved. Good to go for a game 1 from the arena. So really, really looking forward to do that. And then the plan will be I just do the post-game show from there as well. So I got to be honest with you guys. Lakers keep taking care of Slee here. So it's phenomenal. All right. Slee, favorite meal you enjoy on cold, cloudy days? Nice bowl of ramen. Go to one of these ramen spots. Got that unbelievable broth. That pork broth that they have. They do chicken broth as well. You got that soft boiled egg cut in half perfectly. That's what I'm going for. Give me some ramen on a cold day. Slee, dark horse for the playoffs. Ooh, that's a good question. I like that. I think Houston's going to be a tough out. I know they're a number 2 seed, but I don't think anybody is talking about them. If you want to say, okay, not top 4, so anybody that's not top 4, can the Pistons make a little noise? That would be cool. I'd love to see the Pistons make a little bit of noise. They got, I think, New York in the first round. Let's see, outside of the Western Conference or inside the Western Conference, I mean, Warriors is kind of I think that's not a sneaky pick. I think Houston could be a dark horse. I think Detroit can make a little bit of noise. There's another team on the West Coast that I would think can make some noise. I don't know. People keep saying Clippers. I'm just not sold on the Clippers. Fa's better than Ramen. I had Fa on what's today? On Sunday. So don't you tell me about Fa. I know about Fa. Fa's phenomenal too. All right. I think we're good. Okay, my people, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for being a part of the show. Solid hour today. Great guests in Alan Horton. Shout out to Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm for being a part of the show. Thank you for your guys' support. If you guys don't mind subscribing to the channel, greatly appreciate it. Consider being a member. $3 a month to be a member. We greatly appreciate you guys. It's a phenomenal way to support the channel as well. Back on tomorrow at 8 a.m. Recorded show tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. It will go for an hour. A couple of guests. Hopefully you guys enjoy that. No show on Friday, back on Saturday. Thank you, everybody. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you guys here over the next couple of days. Have a great Wednesday.